What do you think about this kind of enforcement? As CZ has said, it was a surprise to Binance. He says they've been working with the CFTC really closely for the past couple of years. Why now?
Well, there's a lot in there, Matt. I think, first of all, they have been CZ responded, they've been working with this agency for 2 years, but of course the allegations here go back to 2017. So they predate any kind of engagement that Binance is claiming to have made, which is probably a fair recording of what actually happened here. The other thing is that these are a variety of different kinds of allegations, and they're not foot faults. They're really serious stuff here. And the kind of evidence that the CFTC seems to have, text messages presumably pulled off somebody's phone that really talk through coaching people on how to evade known law. This is different from other enforcement actions we've seen from the SEC, for example, which basically is citing failure to come into the regulatory perimeter, right? But here, they're actually saying these are really well-established rules and laws around how to conduct anti-terrorist surveillance, and the flaunting of them is a pretty deep and problematic allegation here.
In terms of what could happen, because these are just civil claims and not criminal claims, what do you expect the fallout to be for Binance and for the broader crypto industry?
Yeah, well, I think we should first note that they're not criminal charges yet. We've yet to see action from the DOJ, but some folks in industry have been anticipating that there might be some of that coming down. I saw you had Meltem on earlier, and we've been waiting to see who was going to go first, really, in against this particular exchange. I think the fallout is something, as Meltem noted again, it's been expected. We've kind of been waiting for a little while to see which agency, which body in the U.S. government was going to kind of go first here. Turns out it was the CFTC. They got the evidence together first, presumably. It's something that I think people have been, back of the mind prepared for, but this is the largest global exchange that exists in this ecosystem. And so I think we're going to have to see how all this plays out. A lot will depend on what Binance chooses to do. Are they going to go to court and fight it? Are they going to settle? Right. We have to kind of figure that out and see where it goes.
Well, we know what Binance has not chosen to do today, Sheila, is join this program. I do just want to state for the record that we did reach out to Binance. I directly reached out to CZ on Twitter via direct message. He did respond. He said no thank you to joining. He said that their response is public and they won't be commenting further on it. So we look forward, hopefully, to speaking with CZ one day in the future, just not today, on this matter. Sheila, you were just discussing how this is such a big player in the industry. This is the world's largest exchange, which begs the question of what you think regulators are trying to accomplish here. Is it about putting a stop to bad behavior, or is it about choking Binance out of the U.S.?
Well, I think it's probably both, but I think in the minds of some of these agencies, those things are somewhat equated, right? They certainly don't see Binance as a good actor based on the allegations in this action. And so I think that they're very interested in ensuring that anybody who is trying to exploit the lack of regulatory clarity realizes that the U.S. is not open to that. Now, the challenge, of course, is a lot of good actors are getting swept up in some of this. There's no question this industry is composed of some bad actors and some good actors. And we're going to have to just hope and cross our fingers that the good actors do not get overly punished. But we're already seeing some of that happening, Kaylee. So the challenge is going to be, does this desire to go after those who are perceived as acting in bad faith sweep out everybody and mean that this entire industry gets offshored out of the U.S., which I think would be the worst possible outcome.
Well, there's also the question of whether they have to go offshore for banking. I just spent my morning on Capitol Hill at the Senate Banking Committee hearing regarding the failures of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. And we know that both of those banks catered to crypto depositors. The question has been raised whether this is another Operation Choke Point. What do you think?
I think that we are seeing the discouraging of banks to engage with crypto companies. And what I find really, really problematic about that is we're not distinguishing between a corporate account, which is doing something like anybody else is doing. It's making payroll, it's paying taxes, it's dealing in fiat in a very traditional startup kind of way. And the idea that a well-funded crypto startup is more risky at the corporate level than any other kind of company or startup that is similarly funded is discriminatory and really problematic. Now, I think that there are some reasons and some conversations to be had about the custodying of crypto assets, which is a different thing, but that's not what we're talking about here. So look, I think that the systematic pushing out that's happening across a variety of different actors. I think agencies are taking this differently. Some are kind of taking an overtly hostile stance, and some are trying to say, look, we're trying to lay out some rules here. We're trying to figure out what good actors can indicate that they should be doing. But I think you have to look at what happened with the SEC and this Wells notice against Coinbase as indicative of overt hostility from at least that agency towards the entire crypto industry. I don't know what else you could ask of a company apart from trying to come in multiple times, documented in writing, asking questions about what needs to be registered and what the process is to do that and getting no response. That doesn't seem like the actions of a government that's really trying to encourage innovation onshore.
Well, what is happening to innovation, Sheila? Because at the same time as we see, crypto essentially being choked out, and it really does look like that from the 1-2 punch of the collapse of SVB and the suit against now Binance. We do see the price of Bitcoin, for example, and a number of other coins rising dramatically. Why do you think we have those two kind of conflicting signals?
Well, here's the irony. At the same time as you're having an encouragement of monopolistic behavior in banks, right? As regional banks are under threat and community banks as well, you're seeing more and more flocking to big giant banks, GSIBs, that are considered too big to fail, those banks that were allocated as such, right? That is kind of creating a monopoly in the banking system, which is something folks have warned about for a while. Going back to 2008, the origin story of Bitcoin lies in the 2008 financial crisis. So at the same time as you're seeing this kind of certain people, I don't think this is consistent across the government, which is not monolithic, but some folks are looking to blame crypto for this. You're seeing others who are saying this is a validation of the very reason crypto exists in the first place. So that juxtaposition it's kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it, Matt, but I think that's what you're seeing in the market.